Soulframe reworked bow combat back in Preludes 8, and the system they came up with is one of the best I've experienced in any game. Today we're doing a deep dive into Soulframe Archery and looking at 3 different builds to suit entirely different playstyles. First, let's do a quick recap of bow basics. Bows have 3 different attack types: a basic shot, a charge shot, and an arrow hail. Charge shots fly faster and straighter than basic shots, making them a bit easier to land at long range, but charging them takes time, so the fire rate is lower. All 3 attack types do damage that scales based on your bow's attuned virtue. Basic shot damage is limited by that bow's specific attunement cap, for now anyway. Our next update will include massive changes to how virtues work, and since the new system won't have points for us to individually allocate, this is bound to have some big implications for weapon damage scaling. For now, just know that if you want to use charge shots at all, then you should max out the virtue your bow is attuned to. Charge shots do much more damage than basic shots, and that damage can scale past the basic shot attunement cap. This cap isn't shown anywhere in-game, you just have to look for when your weapon damage stops increasing as you add more virtue points, but hopefully this won't be relevant much longer. If you're watching this video after we've gotten the new virtue system, check the pinned comment for updated info on how weapon damage works. Arrow Hail will rain arrows within a circle on the ground, and it has a fairly long activation time. There is a maximum range for this circle, which can be increased through the fletching combat art. As you hold your Arrow Hail input, the size of the circle will slowly grow, allowing you to cover a larger area with your arrows. The number of arrows that fall in that circle will stay the same regardless of its size. Only the Rife Noct combat art can increase the number of arrows that fall in your hail, although it does so by increasing the length of time in which the arrows fall, not the rate at which the arrows fall. Hail's arrows will only deal a third of your bow's basic attack damage. Our current armor system applies a flat reduction after damage calculation with a minimum value of 1 damage, which means once you get into late game content, Arrow Hail usually only deals 1 damage per arrow. Fortunately, there are still many ways to get some use out of Arrow Hail. The first of these involves the splinter mechanic. Both basic shots and arrow hails will embed arrows in terrain and targets. Firing a charge shot near embedded arrows will cause them to explode, dealing stagger to nearby enemies. Unfortunately, the amount of stagger dealt by Splinter is extremely unimpressive, even when you use both the combat art and totem that increase this value. That said, enemies can still get jostled around by splintering arrows, even if their stability bar barely moves, so splintering is still a good way to get CC for bigger fights. There's also totems that can enhance your arrow hail, like the gnawing that strips armor and the yielding that slows enemies. But by far the most important use for arrow hail is to proc smite. Hailed arrows have the same smite chance as any other arrow, but the quantity of arrows in a hail makes this the best way to proc smite with a bow. We do have a totem that is supposed to increase the smite chance for fully charged shots, but at time of recording it still does not work. Bows have a very low smite chance relative to their attack speed, which is a good thing given how easily you can proc smite with arrow hail, but I am eagerly awaiting a fix for bow ducks because I generally prefer charge shot builds. So let's talk about builds. Soulframe bows can be effective in at least 3 completely different playstyles. This weapon is more versatile than any other in the game, and that is part of why I love it so much. We don't have final confirmation on this, but it's possible that future bows might have different special attacks in place of arrow hail, so this variety could increase significantly as the game develops. But for now, let's look at 3 ways to play with the bows we have in Preludes 12. You can use any of these builds with any bow in the game. Just put all of your virtue points into whichever virtue that bow is attuned to, and check the pinned comment for info on what to do if you're watching this after we get our virtue rework. Our first build is an arrow hail build, and it is the easiest to play, so if you're not great with aim or you just want casual gameplay, this is the build for you. Let's start with combat arts. Your priorities here are fletching for longer range on your hail, Rife Noct to increase the number of arrows in your hail, and Barbed Point for more time to splinter your arrows. For totems, you're going to want to use the Spry in your utility slot for smite chance, and either the Scourge or the Yielding in defense for armor. I tend to go with more physical armor, but you do get a higher stat value from the Yielding. For your attack totem, I'd suggest starting out with the Yielding for a slow. This will cause your arrow hail to slow all enemies it hits, making it much easier for you to land shots even when you have to kite. Start your fights with an arrow hail, then alternate between basic shots for quick damage and charge shots for CC from splintering arrows. Both of our options for bow runes drop from Gruul Seeker Ruthos, who spawns up here. Alga's Breath drops in normal mode, and the Torrent drops in Koga. If you decide to use this build with the Torrent, then you'll want to equip the Gnawing in your extra attack slot for armor strip on your arrow hail. For full details on a P12 torrent build, check out my Orengal video. I'll include a link below with the timestamp for the bow build. Arrow hail builds are still good with Alka's Breath, since this rune increases the damage of your arrow hail as well as your basic and charge shots. In your extra utility slot, you can add the Gnawing for a bit of armor strip on Smite, the Lookout for cooldown reduction on your Grace ability, or the Noble specifically if you're using Garen Rude. The Noble Smite heal is pretty small, and in most situations you just want to use Sympathy, but on Garen Rude you don't want to be at max health, so a small heal for some extra comfort can be really nice. This build works very well with either Gildor or Quicksilver joinery on your bow. Your hailed arrows can headshot, so they will benefit from Quicksilver's headshot multiplier, and both Alka's Breath and the Torrent make Gildor's lifesteal a lot more meaningful. So this arrow hail build is comfortable and versatile and generally great to use while you're getting used to Soulframe's bows. Our next build is a close-range skirmisher. You're going to want to use Alka's Breath as your rune, and a bow with Gildor joinery for more efficient parries and a bit of lifesteal. For combat arts, you want to prioritize Riposte, Vaunt, and Ready Mark, and for totems you're going to use the Spry in your defense and utility slots and the Scourge in your attack slot. The Spry in your defense slot will massively increase your parry window, so your primary source of damage on this build will be Riposte. Alka's Breath is ideal here because the Torrent will not proc on finishers, but Alka's Breath does increase the damage of your Riposte, as well as the bonus damage procs you get from the Scourge in your attack slot. Vaunt should get you plenty of Smite procs, but if you want even more, you can use the Ample in your extra utility slot for Smite kicks, or you can stick with the Gnawing for single target armor strip. As much as it pains my soul to parry melee attacks with a bow, I have to admit this build is pretty fun to play. Finally, we have my favorite Soulframe bow build, which relies on aerial charged headshots. For this, we're going to want a bow reforged with Quicksilver joinery, and once more we're going to use Alka's Breath as our rune. The combat arts to prioritize on this build are Wolf's Eye for the increased smite chance on charged shots, and Ready Mark so our shots charge faster after a perfect dodge. Our totems will again be the Spry and the Gnawing in utility, because the Yielding's charge shot smite bonus does not currently work. As soon as it is fixed, we'll want to drop the Gnawing and use the Yielding instead, but for now we'll take that extra bit of armor strip. In defense, use whichever armor totem you like, but in attack we are going to use the Voyager. This totem gives you a flat 30 bonus damage on fully charged shots when you're airborne. Now, against my better judgment, I spent several hours trying to figure out the precise order of all the bonuses that get applied to my shots in this build, even though weapon damage scaling could be completely different in just a few weeks. I think weapon damage gets calculated with joinery, and then totems are added before the general weapon headshot multiplier, but I'm still not entirely sure. To preserve my sanity, let's just simplify a bit and say that the charge shot multiplier, general weapon headshot multiplier, Quicksilver headshot multiplier, and Voyager flat damage bonus combine to create numbers that are deeply satisfying and get even more delightful when you proc Alka's Breath for yet another damage multiplier. To get the Voyager's damage bonus, you must be airborne when you take your shot. You can charge your shot while you're still on the ground and then hop in the air when you release it, or you can jump in the air and then aim your shot, which will cause you to slowly aim glide while your shot charges. I prefer using the aim glide just because I like how smooth that tracking feels, but you'll get the Voyager's damage bonus either way, so use whichever method helps you get more headshots. This is not the easiest build to use, but that is a huge part of what makes it so fun for me. I love the challenge of hitting headshots on moving targets while airborne, and I love how satisfying the results are. My fire rate going for all these headshots is pretty low, so I'm fully relying on all those multipliers to take out enemies efficiently. I have to pay attention to my surroundings and my health and either stay out of danger or be ready to use a sidearm to manage aggro, all while tracking targets and landing shots. Playing this build feels like the game is challenging my skill as an archer and rewarding me when I succeed, and I love it. And I also love that other players can riposte their way to victory using bow parries, bless their hearts, or use arrow hail to slow enemies while they spam light attacks. I want Soulframe to be fun for all kinds of players, and I love that bows genuinely offer that range of gameplay experiences. Let's finish this video with a few tips for using bows with each of our current packs, including which bow build I think fits each pack best. Oshelda significantly drops the skill floor for the charged shot build. It's much easier to hit headshots when your target is frozen by bestone, and that extra burst of damage when you break the stone is quite effective. Siren is a great option for the close-range skirmisher build. Trick of the Light and Pictrix powder can help you manage aggro, while Glamour is perfect for repositioning and getting extra finishers. Tethrin is insanely good on the charged shot build. I mean, Felist is strong on every weapon, but you can get some really fun numbers with a bow if you manage to proc everything together at full stacks. Orengal works best with the Arrowhail build, although mostly because of how Pack Hunter wolves block arrows. If wolf collision never gets changed, then a charge shot build will be equally viable. Garen Rude works well with any of these builds, but you'll want to make sure to use it with a bow that has guild or joinery to keep your rune up. On the charge shot build, you won't get quite as much damage out of headshots without Quicksilver, but the increased uptime from Malka's Breath more than makes up for it. Bromius and Mora's Hand are both best suited for the Skirmisher build since their Arcanics are designed for close-range combat, and Ode Tempest is excellent for the charge shot build since Atmosphere will keep you steady while you aim for enemy heads. But, of course, any pact can work with any bow build you want to play, so try the one that sounds most fun to you. We are here to have fun after all, so explore this beautiful world in whatever way brings you the most joy. Please like this video if you found it helpful and subscribe for more Soulframe content. What do you hope our next bow special attack will be? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, happy hunting!